Good morning, Maher. Chebbo.
Hello. So probably we could start for today.
Hi, Maher.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. And we have we have everyone's video, so that's good to see everyone. Thank you for joining. I will be moderating this panel, and I would start first by having a quick round of introductions, and then I will give the floor for everyone to set up the scene and bring your key messages. What are you looking for on this platform? If you are an investor, what kind of investments you are in, and what kind of companies you are looking for to invest in. If you are from the other side, also what kind of technology you have and what are you looking for as an investor to come. I then will ask you questions at the end of your, let's say 5-10 minutes of speech. And then once the whole speeches have been done, then I will create more the dialogue among all the speakers. I think we have about 90 minutes that will be enough to fit with the number of speakers that we have. You are 3, so you can take more time if you wish, and have much more questions as well and much more dialogue among yourselves. So let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Maher Chebbo. I'm chairing the event, and I have 30 years of experience in different industries and technology and digitalization, where I worked 6 years at Capgemini, 21 years at SAP, large software company, and then with GIOS for the last 3 years. And I speak on different topics on the market or in events related to AI, machine learning, digital platforms, blockchain, and so on. And then I'm also involved in different committees like the digital transition, for example, for the energy sector and climate, the European Commission, and other committees as well. Dimitri, would you like to present yourself and present the platform as well?
Sure. So I'm glad to see you here for today. So my name is Dmitry Solovyov. I'm probably 10 years, have a strong experience in digital, have experience in e-commerce, e-learning, digital marketing, crypto projects, and now moving for decentralized autonomous organizations. So actually my goal is to create the digital platform that could connect experts, investors, projects, founders, and provide the communication between each other and provide great outreach for this communication. So we decided to start with a digital event that could connect everyone, and later we will move to our own decentralized autonomous organization with our own platform where we could upload our content. We create our own academy for sharing the experience with others, and digital marketplace for providing our own services. So I'm really glad that you decided to join us. So hope our collaboration will be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Chris, tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, something I didn't know, but I share something with Maher. I'm a former SAP employee as well. I used to work there up to 2011. That's when I decided to leave the IT and ERP world to start my first venture, which was all about financing small companies in Ireland through a form of invoice discounting on a pay-as-you-go basis. Essentially what it is, it's something that helps small businesses that work with big companies to receive money when they need it. The concept existed in the UK, in the US, and I teamed up with a few people to bring that to Ireland at the time. And now this is still working, but I took a completely different focus, which is way more psychology driven. And I help investors and managers to understand why we do what we do with our money. And essentially we try to find the root of the behaviors that we have, Why do we invest in a certain way? Why do we spend in another way? How do we earn our money? How is our brain making us do what we are doing? So I'm combining those two sides at the moment. And just for everybody to understand where I'm at, my main areas of investment at the moment are peer-to-peer lending, gold and silver for the more traditional or side. And I also have some stocks. I'm still involved in the stock market, even though it's reduced a lot in the last few months because of the circumstance you probably all know.
Okay, that's great. I mean, you have a consistent experience between knowing the technology. How many years did you spend at SAP before leaving at 2011?
8 years. I started in 2004 and left in 2011, at the end of 2011.
Okay. That's long. I mean, I stayed 21 years. I left in 2017. And, the whole company has been growing. This is now the #1 market cap in Germany and the #1 in its field of enterprise software. It's a great company.
Yes, yes.
I think it's a good experience afterwards when you get in investments as well.
Yeah, for me, it was a very good experience because I learned a lot about processes, and not only the technology side, but it's also investing is a process. Business is a process. By working with so many clients, seeing so many different industries, localizations, it really frames your mind in a way that understand what is an opportunity, what is a problem, what is a bottleneck, how it could be solved, how does technology help, how does human help, and you can filter out the good from the bad very, very easily once your mind has been trained in a certain way.
Excellent. Next one, quick introduction.
Tzahi, you want to go first?
I don't mind. You can start, no problem.
Okay.
Just Chris, where are you based?
I'm actually based in Tbilisi right now, in Georgia.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hi, this is Manish Upadhyay. I'm based in India.
Okay.
And my background is I've been in the space of edtech, e-learning, multimedia, whatever you want to call it, for the last 25 years. Started my own organization in 2002 called Liquid. We raised money from SoftBank and Grey Matters Capital there, and did a lot of work on corporate e-learning services, as well as have our own English language product for Indian market for vocational, higher ed, K-12 corporate segment. Last 4 years, 2016 onwards, I've moved on to non-operational role within my own organization and doing a lot of other ecosystem relevant stuff. So for example, I'm advising Central Square Foundation, which is a foundation that works with Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in India on education front. And I'm their EdTech advisor, where we're doing very large scale projects like National Teacher Portal, a project with Google, where we're creating a lot of free content for the Indian audience. So that is one advisory. I'm also advising a couple of universities. So Ashoka University is a liberal arts university in India. There is a university in South called Maharashtra Institute of Technology, Pune, which has 75 to 100 colleges with themselves. So helping them with their online platform transition. There is a test prep organization called Jambori that is in higher ed, that is in the overseas student market. So IELTS, TOEFL types of tests. Again, consulting them on, advising them on online transitioning. There is a big government body called National Skill Development Corporation. So I've helped them with e-learning and innovation in India on the skilling tech side. There is an accelerator called UINCEPT, where we work with a lot of edtech as well as non-edtech startups and engage with them, helping them, advising them. There is an accelerator in Ashoka University called Smart City Accelerator, which is in collaboration with Microsoft Indian School of Business and Ashoka University, largely on smart city side. So my mandate essentially is EdTech and entrepreneurship. I'm partner investor in 3-4 other organizations. 2 of them are in test prep and personalized learning space. One of them, which is a project which we have recently investing, is on the neuro learning side, which is how is learning really important, or you can short circuit that process. It's slightly based in the future, but those are the kind of stuff that I'm involved with. So largely EdTech and entrepreneurship is the area of my interest, with a little bit of exposure on projects where I invest basis my interest. Thanks.
Excellent. So you are doing things that are, I mean, I will be asking more questions later on, but you are doing things that are also having a social responsibility out of this cooperation with the Bill Gates Foundation and also the e-learning. Is it the objective that to have much more people who are analphabets to give them the opportunity to learn and get educated? Whereas people, for example, who approach me, we're thinking about tablets for the ones who are in the poor countries that can help them intuitively to learn it quickly. Were you involved in these things?
Sure. So with this Central Square Foundation and Gates Foundation, we are actually working with a lot of government schools in India, and it is pretty much all state governments is where we've reached. And the idea is to look at what each state government's inclination is in terms of and each state government has slightly bit different set of priorities, but largely it is about how do you reach to how do you give them devices, and then how do you give them trained teachers and digital content for them to consume. And what we figured out, and in India, essentially, we have taken a stance that, the end device outside school obviously is mobile, and mobile penetration is increasing. Smartphone penetration is increasing in India now, almost 40-50% penetration there. And within school, it is combination of we seeing all 3-4 kinds of devices, which is right from smart TV to projectors in the digital classroom to tablets and thin clients in the personalized practice labs. So pretty much all kinds of technologies being experimented. We're still at a stage where penetration in government school is not adequate in across state governments, and that is one of the big mandate. And the area of interest obviously is how can we also look at early childhood literacy and numeracy, and literacy and numeracy being one big emphasis area of the foundation to work on, in the impact side.
Okay, good. Just before we jump to the last introduction, there is a window in this Zoom, which is the chat. For the people who will be listening to the recording, they will see your face, they will see your name, but they will not have all the details or the links, for example, to your profile or links to organizations that you would like to highlight or initiatives you would like to highlight. Please provide in this window in the chat all this information that people have like a self-sufficient information with the recording and all the links and addresses they need. Thank you. Tzahi Kanza, where are you based?
Yes, I'm based in Israel.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are your activities?
Okay, so I'll give a brief introduction of all our company. I'm a partner in a group called Titanium. We're a technology group, software group, headquartered in Israel. We are around 110 people. We started focusing on blockchain 4 years ago. So we act as a venture studio for blockchain startups. We have a Future Block, which is our venture studio. It's a global venture studio. And we have physical offices in Caribbean, China, and here in Israel, but the startups are from all over the globe. So currently we have 15 startups, 15 blockchain startups in our portfolio. In each one of them, we are part of the management and we are deep into them. And there is one company named Securer that we are the shareholders, and I'm also the CEO of this company. Secure offers the blockchain infrastructure to ecosystem that has investors, startups, company, these type of ecosystems. So we have few products that are focusing on this for real estate, for regular crowdfunding. But one of the major products that we are running now, called Venture Rocket, is managing ecosystems of accelerators, hubs, investor groups. So that's what I'm doing most of my time.
Okay, so the Titanium is has a fund which invests and support these startups.
Yes, the idea is that once every 4 to 6 months, we find a startup that is interesting for us, and we see that there's a value, and we give this startup what we call everything. So it's our own funding. We are not a fund, but it's our internal, funding. We have also investor network. So if it's pre-seed, we do ourselves. And if we need more, we put our investor network into it. And we, for a period of usually 18 months, we support the startup for everything. So it means product, technology, managing the startups, planning, fundraising, business development, everything to move into next step. When they move to next step, which means round A, or they are getting listed, if it's a token-based company, then we move to the board, and we are more in the general management, not in the hands-on daily activities.
Mm-hmm. So let me then, now this round of introduction is finished, and maybe we can start by you, Tzahi, with the passing your key messages, your recommendations, what kind of startups you are looking for, and also how your model works. So if you are, if it's a pre-seed stage, you would do it yourself. What do you mean by this? Which means like you hire people, you set up a legal entity. From where comes the money? And then if you invest in a like a blockchain startup, for example, and bring your network of investors, what kind of share you take in these startups? So all of this information will be helpful to everyone who would like to use the time.
Okay. So we run two programs. One program is what I discussed now, Future Block, and I will be more general and explain more about this. And second one, we have our own accelerator in Malta that is focused on every startup that are interested or might be interested in going to Malta. So I leave this aside. The activity in Malta is for any startup. It doesn't matter, what they do. For sure, that there are specifications, but let's say 80%, could match. And then they can get funding. There are a lot of advantages in going to Malta, but I put this aside for now. I'll focus on Future Block. Future Block, what we do is we look for interesting startup for us. So it's only blockchain or blockchain related. For example, could be payments that are related to blockchain, or could be communities that are related to blockchain. We choose according to the technology, the people, and if we understand that we can have an advantage for this startup. Startups can start, really from an idea. Two guys coming to us with a good idea and, have nothing, but, they're from the industry, they know what they're talking about. So we can start like this. And we have also company startups that came to us after they raised 3 million, and we took it from there related to going into blockchain. So this is what we're looking for. Usually, if it's very early stage, we invest our own money. We don't go to a network. And if it's after that, we do go for a network. In general, we have two types of startups. Startups, what we call our portfolio, which are 15. And they were really deep inside, and we are part of it, and we have equity. And there's another around 45 startups, blockchain startups globally, that they are what we call our ecosystem. And for them, we like what they do, we like the team, but we are not part of them because, you know, many reasons. So for them, we support them. What does it mean, support? We assist them with the investment, with business opportunities, but we don't take equity because it doesn't make sense.
So how you get remunerated then? When
So
you support them, you don't take equity. It's a consulting job.
We don't call it consulting. Usually, you know, when we help them with business development, sometimes it makes sense for our own startup, so it's good for our own startup, our portfolio. And sometimes, you know, there are other business opportunities that they are part of, let's say, a joint venture or a mutual work, and it makes sense for us, you know, to cooperate with them, even without taking anything from them. So that's the main model. We are not brokers in the sense that we take startups and we look, you know, for capital for them.
So you help them, and somewhere you see them growing, but you keep a preferred partnership relationship, and if they take off and they grow, you are the preferred one to get in.
Exactly. And sometimes, like for example, if
an incubation mode,
it's more like a really specific business development into real projects that they are doing, you know, something concrete that has a full cooperation, you know, and an application. It's not that it's theoretically or it's in the back office. No, it's a project, you know, with the client, you know, that makes sense for them, for us, and for others. This is the main, you know, interest for us. Sometimes we see a startup and we think that they should go for another vertical or should use another vertical, but the startup, you know, doesn't have the resources. So sometimes when we bring investment,
a vertical is a sector like transportation. Like
yeah,
energy,
let's say, you know, yeah, let's say that they have something and they do it for the medical, and I think they should do it, you know, for transportation. Okay, but they don't have the capacity. So what we do is we say, okay, you know, we will bring the funding, we'll bring the project, we'll bring everything, and this specific vertical will do it as a joint venture. So they can, you know, continue with their own startup.
So you bring an expert. If it's like, you know, go from healthcare, I would say, to I don't know, another sector, which could be life science, for example, which is close to the hospital business. And then you would go for a specialist of pharma, then you create that joint venture with that pharma who brings the domain of expertise.
Exactly. I can give you a very close, you know, we have one of the startups, you know, they do identity. So now we work, you know, to general, you know, generic identity. And now we put it into identity related to Corona. So to the COVID. So the idea is, you know, you have your identity, and based and attached to this is your data that has impact, you know, on COVID. For example, you know, if you tested positive or negative, and when and what. So it's like an identity, you know, for this. And this is going from, you know, fintech, you know, identity, the main, you know, target was, into medical identity. So that's one example.
Okay, that's interesting. So the what's the profile of the 110 people that are part of Titanium? Some of them are technology experts. You have a lot of financial experts.
Around 70% are software engineers, and the rest are business development and investment specialists. This is more or less the deviation.
Okay, and then people who know how to make deals and how to make VC deals and joint ventures and so on.
Yeah, we have a lot of partners because, you know, we are spread globally, so we cannot really be expert in every jurisdiction. So in every jurisdiction, we have local partners that can assist with, you know, these aspects.
Okay, the regions where you are active, you mentioned Caribbean, you mentioned Israel. What about, you know, let's say United States or Asia or Europe?
Yeah. No. This is our own offices. But we have local joint ventures with local partners in US, in Europe, in Asia, Australia, almost everywhere.
Okay, yeah, that's the whole world. Whenever there is like an interesting opportunity, you go there.
Exactly. Yeah, but we just decided to set offices only in China and Caribbean because there was a lot of activity there, and we decided that we need to set up there.
Okay, what you call a venture studio, that's for the blockchain?
Yeah. It's like an accelerator, but hands-on. This is why we call it, venture studio. It's not really a program that starts and ends, and no.
Yeah. In general, the term, when you have an application called studio, it helps you doing quick developments, for example. AI,
exactly.
of user interface and things like that. So here you use the term venture studio by saying it's an accelerator to help the blockchain startups to go fast.
Yeah. Because we have expertise in blockchain, then FutureBlock is focused on blockchain startups, and there we go really deep into every new company we accept. We go very deep into it. Really, a team like of between, I don't know, 8 to 10 people are from day one joining the company almost full time. Our activity in Malta is different. Our acceleration program in Malta is different because it's related to the local government, which means that we introduce our abilities to accelerate companies with the assistance of the Malta government. That's the point there.
Is it interesting? Is it attractive to do this kind of business in Malta? The government is supportive?
Yeah, of course, but working with government is always different than working with private people. Everything is very regulated, has to be very transparent, slow, formal, etc.
Okay.
Malta has a lot of advantages when you compare to other countries, but not every startup, they don't want to have any startup to come there, and not every startup needs to go there or makes sense for him for the startup to go there. But there are a lot of startups in this world. So
what are the verticals where you have done something, where you have some experience? So you mentioned real estate. What about the others?
You mean in blockchain?
Blockchain or anything else, actually. Where are sectors where you have done
we have a huge
venturing?
Yeah. Well, Secure, which is the sector that I'm, is the company that I manage, except, my activity here.
What's
is
the
Venture Rocket.
The Venture Rocket, this is the new product that you...
Exactly. Secure is the company, and Venture Rocket is the product that is related to accelerators. So this is a pure fintech, these two, Secure and all these products. But I've done, many sectors, for blockchain, only for blockchain, we have, in medical, we have in sports, we have in identity, we have in social, communities, we have sports. So there are many, many sectors that we are working in. I cannot really specify, one, because blockchain as infrastructure is really relevant to almost everything.
Okay. So is the healthcare and the AI, I mean, it's blockchain and AI, I guess the expertise that you have, let me speak about the artificial intelligence and machine learning, for example, on patient or medical records and the analysis of the images and so on. Is it also a business where you are present?
What we have currently related to medical is one is like what I discussed before, is more related to identity, and in the medical, related to in general, but everything related to your identity and your, let's say, medical ID. And we have another, activity related to medical, which is not blockchain, and it's more related into telemedicine, but this is not blockchain. And there are a lot of aspects of AI there, but not imaging. It's more about the smart concepts of bringing real life activities between hospitals, doctors, and patients into a process that is easy, computerized, and you can get good results.
Okay, and then when you are talking about the medical ID, we are talking here about, my understanding is like you could have also the records and the history or the CV of a patient, for example, which could be shared between doctors, and then you have like an interoperability between different
Exactly. Exactly.
This is what they have done in Austria, actually. In Austria today, 70% of the citizens have this whole CV of the patient and the whole history of the patient, which is shared across the medical community.
Exactly. So the idea here is, in what we do, is that the whole concept of blockchain here is that the patient has control of the data. And because the solution is global, is not related to one country, then it's impossible to do it otherwise. Because let's say, I'm a US citizen, I'm going to Australia, and I need to show my, some kind of data, and they need to approve that it's correct. So the solution is not to do all your records, but only the records that are relevant into the global activity that you want to do. And here, with the COVID-19 issues is really perfect, because when, the sky would open, then you'll need to prove things related to what you did or what you didn't do, and, what is your situation related to COVID. That's the main target. So,
when did you start? When did the group Titanium start?
It started many years ago, but in the last 4 years, we started, doing blockchain and turned into this venture studio activity. We started, like all the time, by an opportunity. So if you remember, 3-4 years ago, the blockchain was very hot, and a lot of, new startup came, and they needed a lot of support.
Okay.
And we became
if you would estimate all the projects, ventures, support to the startups, can you give a number about how much money was engaged or leveraged for supporting these investments?
How much we invested, or how much investment we brought to our startups in general?
Both.
I guess we in total, ourselves, a few millions USD, and the whole network, I don't know, let's say, few dozens, 50, 60, 70, to all the startups from the network, something like this.
So,
yeah, we usually, like I said, we are active pre-seed and seed. After they raise the seed, they continue themselves.
Okay, good. Do you have ex gurus of technology or software companies who are part of your network of experts? For example, like somebody like Shai Agassi, is he involved somewhere with Titanium in Israel?
Him, no, but we have a wide network of technology experts and VCs that we work with, or investor groups or angels. Few hundreds, that we worked in the last 10 years. So I cannot really say, that one, but we know more or less, what people are looking for, and if there's an opportunity, we know whom to contact.
Okay, great. So I think that's clear.
Right, thank you.
Love to ask you if you can, in the chat window, provide all the useful links, information, link to your profile,
yeah, sure,
and so
I'll do
on,
now.
the people will see the information. Let me jump to Chris Lascor, right? Lascor.
Lascor, yes.
In Georgia. Yeah, tell me more about how did you move into the investments and helping the technology or the startups. This is a bit what I understood, and where you are today in this, and your recommendation as well for the ones who would like to deal with you.
Yes. So essentially, everything
What's the
started.
name? What's the name of your company?
Global Pecunia.
Pecunia.
Pecunia meaning money in Latin.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything started really in 2007, 2008 for me. When I was working for SAP, I was in a decent enough position. I saw what was happening in Ireland, which was very badly affected by the crisis. There were
Prices, of course. Yeah.
many a big recession, a lot of people losing their jobs.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I was talking with the ESB, which is Electricity of Ireland, and
Yes.
all the leaders had to cut their salaries. Bonus have been cut. A big layoff. Thousands of people laid off. Yeah, that was hit Ireland. Yeah, absolutely.
That was very badly hit. But to me, I could see that there was one thing that people were missing. It was that it was not really the big companies laying off people that were the big problem. The big problem was SMEs, because most people were hired by small businesses, and all the attention, all the support was going to those big companies, laying off thousands of people, being Intel, whatever. Okay, they're firing a lot of people, and this is creating a big problem for the property market. If people cannot pay back their mortgage, they're going to lose their house. It's a big problem. But to me, I saw that the bigger problem was all these smaller companies, 5, 10, 20 employees, were facing huge liquidity problems at the time. And I saw this as an opportunity. I tried to see how did other countries support those small businesses? What were the type of product and services that were available to big companies, but were not available to small companies? And by doing my own research intellectually, I saw this invoice discounting product. By doing a bit more research, I found a few other countries that were tailoring it a little bit. And that's how I came up with this idea to really jump into that game and try to provide a funding solution for small businesses that were getting paid late, but not because whoever owed their money didn't have that money, but because they were working with those big companies like SAP or ESB or so on that were so big that they could take 60 days, 90 days to pay their suppliers. It's just the name of the game. As long as they can keep their cash, they're going to do it. But there's a big difference in risk if you give money to somebody who is dealing with big corporates that are just taking time to be paid, or giving money to companies that are dealing with small guys who are not paying because they just simply don't have the money and simply won't have the money in a few months. So I worked on that model, worked with a franchise and a few people to bring these services to Ireland at the time. The first, the profile of companies that were really interesting for me at the time were in the service industry. And because I also had this technology background that I got essentially in my studies and in SAP, I worked with decent companies in the consulting game, in the technology, early stage companies that were simply too new for banks that didn't have 1, 2, or 3 years bank statement, profit and loss to show. So they couldn't get access to traditional banking solutions, but still they had a decent background. They were able to get traction. They were able to invoice, but not necessarily get the money in quickly enough. And that was my niche for. Then around 2016, 17, I started noticing something different, well, something strange for me, which was that sometimes when people were owing me money, some people would just simply pay, some would do crazy things. Some would start shouting, some would start crying, some would start just flying away. And I started wondering, well, what's happening? Why are these people doing what they're doing all of a sudden? Why is everybody reacting in a very, very different way? And by doing again the same type of research I did in 2008, I came across the field of neuroscience, psychology, understanding how the brain works and how we are wired to do something under pressure. And that led me to start this global Pecunia venture in 2017, where I combined the financial side with the business process to try to come up with an easy enough explanation for people who don't necessarily need to spend that much time and energy into finding this information online, and kind of joining the dots to explain why we know what we should be doing, but we don't exactly do that. This is a very general statement, but I focus more on financial behaviors. That's really how I came to do what I'm doing today over the last 10 years now.
Mm-hmm. And it works. There is a demand, and then you find out companies who really understand the pitch and understand the service and the support they get. It worked. For the last 10 years, you have enough a funnel of enough opportunities here where they are asking you to do that.
Yes, it's essentially channeled. What I do is I'm quite a big networker. I like this. It just suits my personality. So for example, to get access to companies that needed my services, the funding side, I network essentially with accountants. I know that every company needs an accountant. I know the accountant knows who needs money, why, what has been tried, what worked, what didn't. So to me, instead of advertising or going after every company, I network with accountants. I explain what works for me, how I'm different from others, what I will be asking if somebody comes to me. And I work on a win-win situation basis with them, because it suits them that their clients have the money to grow and to pay them. At the same time, I'm not competing with them, but I can understand their language. I'm a finance person, so I can read the profit and loss balance sheet. I know what they're doing. I know the good from the bad. And we can talk.
Yeah, I live in Paris, in France, and in France there is a company which is specialized in supporting the very small companies, which is between 1 and 20 employees. And actually, they developed a tool which gives quickly the picture of where that very small business is in terms of their income, their spending, their treasury, for example, and the reserves. And then with this tool they have developed, they provide value to transform a very small company which is not profitable, like restaurants, like construction, and so on, to transform them into being more profitable, and they take 10% on the improvement of the results. Okay. And so here you are bringing the network of accountants to help them educate them, because some of these startup leaders are not specialists in finance probably, but are good in technology, and they don't know how to run a balance sheet properly. And then here with the accountants that you bring and your expertise as well, at least you provide value on this. All right.
Yes, that's one big aspect to it. Like, this product is probably going to tell a restaurant or a small business what to do. Where I'm coming in is that a lot of time, even though you know what you should be doing, you're not necessarily doing this. Like, if we just step out of the finance world for a second, many people know they shouldn't smoke. Smoking costs a lot of money, and it just takes a few years of your life. But still, even if they know they shouldn't do it, they still do it. Why? Because there is something that they associate with smoking that is very, very strong. And that's even stronger than the value of saving some money or spending a few more years. In business, we have our comfort zone. For example, for me, I love finance. I could talk about finance all day. The problem is, if I only do that, I'm not doing my marketing, I'm not doing my sales, I'm not doing many things. And it's very, very easy to overlook a very, very important aspect of the business. I know what I should be doing. I should overlook absolutely everything, but there is something in me that stopped me naturally to do that. And where I come in really is I'm trying to understand why, even though you have all this knowledge, all these tools, all this experience, why you're not taking advantage of absolutely everything available. There is something in you that stops you from doing it, and I'm helping there. It's like fixing the behavior that stops you from being where you should be. That's a slight
What are the
difference.
verticals? What are the verticals that you address, or you have? You said you started initially with the services industries. Services industries is like travel and transportation. I think utilities was part of that at SAP, and then moved to another cluster. Is that included? Engineering and construction, professional services, service provider, and so on. All of that is part of the services industries. Do you include banking as well, part of this, and retail, or this is something different?
Banking, I don't really do much with actually right now. It's more smaller companies, small businesses, where you still don't have this big corporation or big corporate mentality. Pretty much everything relies on one or two people, and I'm dealing with them. So take a company that has less than 20 employees, that would really be my
so this is
my focus right now.
Like the example I was mentioning here in front.
Yeah.
And they could be in any business, not only specifically in technology or software or IT.
Yeah, they could be absolutely anywhere. The thing with technology is usually you talk to people who like processes, steps, do things. They want to see where they are, where they can get. Once they get there, they know where to go. And I'm not saying it's easy enough to gain trust, but I can relate to them because I am one of them. Where if somebody is more of an artistic type of person and likes to do things for the sake of doing it, to me it's difficult eventually to show some tangible progress. So technology, perfect, but in the end it could apply to the principle apply to everything, but because I can't really help absolutely everything, I like people who sort of work my way, and I know I can help. So finance, technology, it's my real sweet spot here.
Excellent. How do you get remunerated? Is it consulting work, or you have like a model?
Yes, right now it's on a consulting model, and I'm trying to see how else I can expand that. So is there going to be some sort of education? But right now it's essentially for the consulting side. Yeah, on the consulting side, paid per hour essentially, or on a project basis. And well, sometimes I invest some money, but that's really on a personal basis. Really, the main focus is the consulting model at the moment.
How many companies did you support?
Sorry?
How many companies did you support since 10 years?
Oh, since 10 years. Yeah, because there are two things. We are in the hundreds actually.
Okay, so you have the scalability, you have the whole learning out of the tens of companies you have been supporting, and then you can tell stories. When you go to a new one, you said, this is what I have done to someone, one of your peers, and this is how we help them with their business and help them to grow as well. So you can tell stories out of a critical mass of customers.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Then let me jump to Manish. Yeah, tell us more about the activities you are doing, your link with the initiatives in e-learning, Bill Gates Foundation, and the things you might be doing with Google or others. So we are very much interested.
So the way I will focus today is on two aspects, which is obviously linked to my experience also. One is on the EdTech domain, which is the domain I'm deeply entrenched in. And the other is the entrepreneurship part, which I've been now involved in a lot of startups and accelerators since last 4 years. Now, on the EdTech side, there really, if I look at first talk about Indian market, you can divide clearly into K-12, vocational, higher ed, and corporate. These are four segments where a lot of action is. And when you look at K-12, especially segment, there we've seen a lot of activity on the test prep market side. So there are a lot of competitive exams for which a huge number of startups are there, and they're getting a lot of investment. So test prep segment is one of the hottest segment where we see a lot of activity on the edtech side of things. And then with Baiju type of unicorn in India, I think the edtech space in the general K-12 education segment, which is curriculum aligned, state curriculum as well as central curriculum aligned content, digital content organizations, they have also come. So there are at least 4 or 5 big organizations who have raised serious amount of Series B, Series C investment in India. And edtech space post-COVID also seems to be hotting up in sense of demand that digital learning is getting. So this is clearly one area where we're seeing a lot of action. The higher ed space is essentially, where a lot of universities, private universities and government universities are. And traditionally, we didn't have many startups focusing on that space, but now all bigger universities have the mandate to go online. And that is again spurring a lot of demands on the digital learning side in the universities, and we're seeing a lot of action there.
Yeah. They do it. I mean, MIT, for example, have a training on AI, on innovation, which is fully remote. So you pay 2,000 to 3,000, and then they deliver this kind of training. They give you a certificate at the end, but it's fully remote, actually.
Absolutely. So in fact, I just started consulting this group of institutions. They're constantly also called MIT, which is MIT Pune, which is a state, a city in India. And they run a chain of close to 75 to 100 colleges in India. And their mandate was very clear that now they want to look at online platform as a big investment play in coming years, which will feed into their distance learning as well as regular university stuff. So we're seeing now this segment. Yeah.
Is it a specific platform which was developed?
No. So there
or something similar to DAO, for example, what Dimitri has set up to organize like a virtual events and have a club and so on. Could a platform like this as well be used for education?
So if you look at EdTech, there are a lot of learning management system players, LMSs as we call it, so Canvas LMS, Talent LMSs, which are proprietary LMSs. On the other side, there are big open source, two open source, one Open edX and Moodle. Now, looking at proprietary as well as open source side, evaluating what is the requirement of the university. If they want to do a quick go-to-market, maybe proprietary is better. If they're looking for a big longer-term play, then you look at open source software like Open edX and Moodle, and have an in-house team that develops and continuously integrates a lot of third-party apps. If you especially look at EdTech space, right from live webinar linkages like Zoom, GoToMeetings of the world, to AI-based chatbots, to doubt resolution companies, which have got actually serious traction in India. There's a couple of doubt resolution companies. You post a doubt and they quickly respond in pretty much in real time. Now, those are the kind of organizations that are micro specialized organizations that are coming and they're getting funded in India. So higher ed actually is going to be one big segment with a lot of investment, because universities have to quickly move fast. And one of the segment which has done pretty well is the corporate learning segment, where there are organizations who are competing with Coursera, edX, Udemy, Udacity, like Upgrad and Simply Learn in India, and they really focus big time on AI, machine learning, data science. These are, I would say, the top-notch, top drawers for these corporate learning companies, because they give 6 to 9 month program which and charge heavily. There are also organizations that are doing some Harvard, MIT certificate along with the program. So that space actually has again evolved, and we're seeing a lot of action in India in that space. So when you look at accelerators that I'm part of in India, especially the EdTech and the Smart City one, we see a lot of startups that are coming and addressing these spaces. And now we have started seeing 21st century skills based startups also, though pretty early in the game in terms of funding, because traditionally what we have seen is, and I'm talking about Indian market and largely applicable to world market, is people pay for tangibles, so wherever there is competition results, people are ready to pay money. Wherever there is, there are board exams which runs centrally, people are ready to pay money. If there is a strong linkage to job and interviews, people pay. Wherever there is nice to have, traditionally we have seen a lot of downloads. And one of such organization, my own company, where we have an English language product, it's a slow and steady growth and not exponential, because people think twice before paying money. And we've seen a huge number of downloads. A lot of companies see how huge number of free downloads, but when it comes to payment, nice to have companies have not done well. And right now, 21st century skill segment is sitting in the nice to have segment rather than must to have segment in India, and I think elsewhere also. And there's always a second tier investment opportunity for schools and colleges and for others, rather than first tier investment opportunity, which is directly linked to tangibles. And that has been the investment scenario also in India. So all our investor networks and all our startups, we've seen that they first go to must-haves, and then if they have a couple of organizations in the nice-to-have segment, which seems interesting for them to have in the portfolio. But largely that has been the space and the scene in India. And EdTech actually got Philip in two instances. One, I think 3-4 years back, when one of the big telecom operator in India, Jio, which recently got funded by, I think partnered by Facebook also. They really opened the data internet data market in India. So GB, so that now people don't worry about GB at all. So there are huge amount of GBs of data lying on everyone's smartphone and everyone's devices, and data actually has not is kind of free in India, and you can call it that. And now smartphone penetration also is exceeding, reaching to a 40-50% level. And that is one big driver which EdTech has benefited from. And the second driver obviously will be COVID. And I think this is going to have huge behavioral level change, especially in country like India, where people have not consumed digital content. Most of the people have not earlier. Now they're being forced to, so schools are running now virtual classrooms, in India, and all kids are going through virtual classroom scenarios. So parents have got exposed to virtual classroom based digital content.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. So first, how much funding and from whom has been provided to this initiative? And second is, how many people are the target? And which countries? Is it India only, India first? Can you tell me some figures?
You're talking about generally EdTech space or some of the startups? Which particular segment you're talking about?
No, not generally. I mean, where your focus, for example, is
Okay,
the EdTech space. Of course, definitely
sure.
the numbers are big. There's billions of investments.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, so if I look at organizations which have gone from the accelerators that I've been exposed to, there will be organizations, and we obviously, when we say accelerators, we're typically talking about pre-seed and seed type of investment at best. So ranging from so when the organization startups come into an accelerator, they typically get a acceleration fund in the range of 20,000 USD to 50,000 USD at best. In majority of accelerators in India, that would be your support cost given to a startup when they get selected to an accelerator program. And then typically, if I look from close to 70, 80, roughly I think 80 startups that have gone through programs where I have been advising, at least 10, 15 of them would have gone through pre-series A, and and 4 or 5 of them. So the ratio would be, and let me separate the two. In fact, EdTech and Smart City are two major segments. EdTech would be close to 50-60, while Smart City, which will be health tech, toilet and waste companies, will be roughly 20-30 of them. So if I look at both the models, the EdTech ones obviously have got more traction in terms of pre-series, pre-seed.
From where the fund comes? I mean, when
so there are, so if I look at Indian market, there are funds that are focused on education, and impact as well as education. So there will be OMIDR is one fund, MSDF, Micro Suicidal Foundation, is one source, Grey Matters is one source.
Okay.
Then there are horizontal accelerators like Sequoia of the world, Lumis Partners, Sequoia, and Matrix Partners. So typical, horizontal funds. And most of the funds, if you look at in India, have now got exposure in terms of, they will have at least 4 or 5 edtech organization in their portfolio. And, fintech, health tech are obviously other segments where a lot of investments happen. Health tech increasingly now post-COVID, but I think fintech obviously has been a segment where a lot of action has happened apart from edtech. And then there is obviously retail sites and other segments. So there are now in India close to, I think, 300 odd incubator accelerators. And some of them obviously are exclusively focusing on a domain, so right from, so one of the accelerators that I am working is EdTech only. Then there are accelerators Smart City only. So now we are seeing some bit of specialization within accelerators. Now, even accelerators that call themselves horizontal, you typically find that because of their network of investors as well as networks of business partners, they get known for certain verticals and not all verticals. Agri-tech actually has seen a lot of action in India. So at least 5 to 10 agri-tech Series B type of investments have happened in India. So that is another emerging area in India. And typically these horizontal funds are doing it, while education, I spoke, OMIDR, MSDF, Grey Matters are some of those. Central Square Foundation, along with Gate Foundation, runs their own grant accelerator, where they focused only on not-for-profit education companies. And there the model is obviously support for, for the life of the organization rather than, any return, because there's no return. So they actually take scaled not-for-profit and give them money whenever they need it, basis results. And it can go from, couple of months to 4 or 5 years kind of a support. So that's a very different kind of a impact grant accelerator that runs. There is another education impact accelerator called Unlimited, which does grant level support to not-for-profit as well as for-profit education companies in India, where I'm again advise them once in a while. And almost all horizontal funds in India invest in EdTech and other funds. And Sequoia obviously has been leading, Matrix Partners and the others that I spoke about, Lumis Partners. They've been doing a lot of funding. Nexus.
So your foundation, Central Square Foundation, gets money from donators, and then this money.
Yeah. So there is one.
Accelerating. So what you have, I'm looking at the website here in your portfolio, like 321, like Shimple, Isli, and so on. So these are companies who get some funds from you, and then you raise actually funds from donation companies, right?
Yeah. So the model, in case of grant money is, for example, in case of Central Square Foundation, the founder of the foundation was earlier an investment. He was Chris Capital MD in India, a person called Ashish Dhawan. So it is his money, and now obviously Gates Foundation is putting money, and there are other funders that fund money here. And then basis projects, we get a lot of funding. For example, Central Square Foundation brought Khan Academy into India, and it is really supported in the early stages to get Khan Academy into India. And now Khan Academy has raised money from Tata Trust in the tune of $10 to $11 million just to make all their content vernacular. So those are the kind of initiatives that are done on the grant side of things through Central Square Foundation, which is
okay. Beside the I know that foundation is focusing on the children's education. There are initiatives like in Africa, for instance, is providing high-tech and deep tech trainings to women that they could also find a job and, you know, empower the women, for example, there. Is there a similar initiative in India like this?
So there are, you know, a couple of for-profit initiatives, which, you know, Shiro's, you know, She Heroes, you know, those kind of platform, which are exclusively for women, you know, and
what's the name of the platform?
S Heroes, you know, so Shiro's.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is one that immediately comes to my mind. And there are others, 2-3 such initiatives which are women only, focused only kind of initiative. You know, there is also a big government initiative in India for small and micro, you know, entrepreneurs, where government of India gives grant money, and they distribute a huge amount of grant money, you know, in lakhs of crores of Indian rupees. So that is again focused on women, but largely, you know, women only. There are, I don't think, more than 4 or 5 big initiatives. It is largely, you know, agnostic in terms of who they fund. And now we are seeing a lot of action. You know, India obviously is gradually opening up, and now you see women as part of co-founding team. In fact, government of India has schemes where women co-founder can also raise collateral-free, you know, money and as loans. And so those are the kind of initiatives that are happening in India, where women are being pushed to join part of co-founding team in India.
Is the She Heroes, is it educational or is it just a social network?
No, it's I think it gives women opportunity to get work, you know, kind of initiative, you know. So they obviously have a huge community, and then they are now also exposing work for women kind of opportunities, you know.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. How much is the as a foundation you have? Well, you mentioned Sequoia and so on, but you have, did Bill Gates support the Center Square Foundation?
So Gates Foundation supports Central Square Foundation, you know. So obviously through Gates Foundation, not directly through Gates Foundation, Central Square Foundation gets grant money to them, but largely driven by the personal grant money of philanthropist Ashish Dhawan. Ashish Dhawan.
Okay, maybe you can provide the links and so on.
Absolutely.
These different foundations, or Sequoia or the other venture capitalists, for example, in the chat window. Okay, so I mean, that's interesting. We have three different. I mean, you are in different ways of acting here. We have clearly a foundation, non-profit, you know, focusing on education and technology for children in India. And then we have also the case of Chebbo, who is more into supporting the very small startups, for example, to run it properly, and in different services industries. And then we have the example of Tzahi through the group Titanium, with this concept of venture studio and being in different sectors, and launching as well new programs like the Venture Rocket in the fintech. So that's interesting. Now I open it for yourselves. From what you heard, do you have any comment or any question to make on the other speeches? Like, for example, Tzahi, is in the things that you are doing, would you include as well social investments and not only for-profit investments?
Yeah, what I said before, everything what the guys are doing is very, very interesting, and I'm sure there are a lot of things that match, you know, what we're doing. For us, usually most of our activity is in the profit, less the NGO related.
So Tzahi,
Yeah, one small thing for NGOs that works with startups, we usually, the only thing we do is we give them a free platform of Venture Rocket, so they can use to arrange their companies and raise capital. This is maybe the only thing we do.
So they can have access to the platform you have built, and where you send the link,
yeah, of course,
you can have a look to that platform. Okay.
Yeah. So for this, I forgot. For every organization that is based on donations or NGO, we set its own white label for free, and they can use it for free without any limitations.
Right. One quick question in terms of blockchain. Have you, in your portfolio, are there any edtech focused blockchain organizations? And where are you seeing use cases for blockchain in edtech?
Actually, I had a lot of experience with edtech, but not in blockchain. I didn't see anything related to blockchain that is relevant to edtech. For sure, you know, there's education related to blockchain itself, but really technology, I didn't see anything.
So from one use case which was there in my acceleration batch was, you know, on certificates for university students.
Yeah. This
that,
I know. Yeah.
So that use case we've seen, but really, you know, in terms of very early days, we have not seen enough takers in terms of actually going after it. But that is one use case we have seen on the edtech blockchain.
Yeah. You call it edtech, I call it more into, you know, it's more fintech. You know, it's authentication of identities. So I know startups like this in Spain that I work with, but from my knowledge, it really didn't, you know, moved a lot.
Even that's what my experience is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Chris, is that in inspiring what you heard from Indian side and from Titanium here?
Yeah, for me, where I was going to go with Manish's question is education. I see a lot of things around financial education, because that's a little bit my game. So there is a lot of AI and financial education, but it's more, as Tzahi was saying, it's more on the umbrella of fintech that it seems to be appearing. So how is blockchain being applied to edtech? I haven't seen that, but for sure there is a lot of financial education that is going that way. For the moment, the content is around blockchain, around education, around all this, but there's no doubt that it's going to go blockchain for sure, and that's going to be an opportunity for you too. No doubt about it.
So one question which is open to both of you, Tzahi and Chris, which is about, you know, especially about the acceleration support and success of acceleration. You know, so now for the last 4 years, I've been engaged with a lot of accelerators. You know, we've seen, I would say, mixed success and not, you know, huge success in terms of, you know, if I can pinpoint and say this is because of us that this guy has done it, it will be wrong to say, you know. And we've seen a lot of gaps in terms of, you know, the seriousness of type of entrepreneurs that come in even after you provide money and support, you know. So what are your general observation about how this acceleration thing is evolving, and is it really working in a bigger way, or you know, investment with direct mentoring support is the better route?
Yeah, please start, Chris.
Okay, the gap I see there is really, well, in the beginning it's easy enough. You get a lot of support, a lot of traction, a lot of governments, they want to put money into it and try to get some quick success stories. The issue is, after you get started, then you can have difficulties getting to the next level. That's where like stage B, C, D come in, and it's harder to get. And it also depends on these companies, these funds, to get the money. It depends on many factors. And I can imagine that also because there is a board of directors, there are already shareholders that came in. It can be difficult for somebody to come in third, fourth into a project, and they will say, look, I like the idea, but it may or it may not be possible for me to get in because of whatever happened in the past. So probably my gut feeling is telling me that one of the reasons why it gets difficult to get past a certain level is due to how everything started initially. But it's once it's done, it's done. You can't really go back and change that, or I mean, it's not necessarily very easy.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there are funds that do that. It's just that they may or may not get more selective after a certain level of investment. But I think Tzahi would probably be much more knowledgeable around that and validate my assumption or just rebut it completely.
Okay. The way we see acceleration, in general, there are two things. The general acceleration concept of taking very early stage startups and giving the whole support and try to make money from it is impossible or close to impossible. There are very few accelerators that can make it. And the reason is very simple. You start, with very early stage. It's very difficult to see, and to guess, who will make it, from this. And even if they make it, from here to an exit, it could take, I don't know, let's say 6 to 8 years, 10 years. So most of the people don't really like, this time frames. So in the world of accelerators, I'm talking in general, but mostly are related to some kind of, for example, a consortium that is interested in the technology, or a corporate, or a local government that want to promote, the young guys. It's more related to, let's say, semi-economical, activity, not 100%. Therefore, a lot of, and there for sure there are very few, but there are accelerators that are very successful, but there are very few. The classical model that it's 100% private and it's a private equity investment, or angel investors, or this type of activity. Therefore, there's a lot of activity related to the both other side of this. So one, side is what we call the real estate side. So the accelerator is really not accelerator, is more like a co-working, and they charge the startup for the real estate, in order to support. This is one side.
Like
and the other side, and the other side, is what we do in Future Block, is to say, no, but we are very selective in the startups we choose, and we go very deep inside. So it's just from this perspective, we are very limited in the capacity, but when we choose one, they have a much higher success rate. So that's how I see it.
Okay. If I, before we might close here, if I ask every one of you to give 3 top recommendations for the startups who could have a chance to have an ear or an attention from yourselves, what would be the top 3 recommendations you would provide? Maybe starting by you.
Me? Yeah. So I would go for this. First of all, choose a good team, because without a good team that think about how other people look at your team, investors, others, this is the first thing. Second, understand the client. You need to understand if what you're building, someone will want to buy, or use. So you must put this in the focus. And maybe the third one is, doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter when, think about raising capital all the time. Have it in your focus, the next round, the next round, the next round, all the time. These are the 3 points, I guess, from my perspective.
And choose a good team. That's once you have the CEO in place, but the first thing you would look at is this the right CEO to run the company, right?
I guess that the founders, one of the founders must be the CEO. Otherwise, it would be too difficult, to have 2 founders. unless they are very professional in specific, a technical thing. Let's say they are too expert in, I don't know, whatever nanotechnology, and they don't want to handle business, so they take a CEO that is doing the business. But 99% of the cases, the founders will be, one of them will be CEO, the other would be usually the technology leader. So
okay. And then first check if the CEO is the right one, whether he is the one of the founders or not, but is that person capable to take the company to the next step and
exactly.
to think in building a good team, understanding the client, and then think about also raising funds properly. Is he capable to sell his story to raise funds as well?
Exactly, how it looks.
Is it should the founder or founders, at least one of them, have an experience of building already a company, or I mean, do you trust someone whose experience is the first one in building the company, or they should be a kind of a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, it's always better to have someone with a good success rate. It's always better to have the best, people experience, with a good idea and the best. But sometimes the entrepreneurs are too young guys. So this is why, when you raise capital, you raise in rounds. So every round you need to prove, where you reached, and then you get more support. So for sure, if it's very, very early stage, they need the first, I don't know, 50K USD to launch their MVP. I think it could help, yeah, but usually if the idea is good and the people are good, they'll get a chance to prove it.
Good. Chris?
Should get a chance.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I would say it starts with knowing yourself. Know what's driving you, what's your vision, what's your mission. Then it will make it much, much more simpler to sell your project. As I was saying, you need to have good people around you. You need to be able to sell your project, your ideas to clients, investors, and you need to know why you're doing what you're doing in the first place and bring the right people on board. No matter if they're employees, investors, everybody needs to be aligned with that. And once you get that, you can, I'm not saying easily, of course it's not easy, but the chances that you're going to match everything that Tzahi was saying or reach what Tzahi was saying is increasing a lot. Of course, always be selling. Every time you interact with somebody, you're representing yourself, your company. It's an opportunity for you to show what you're doing, how you're doing it. And if you believe in it for long enough, there is going to be opportunities. Investors, there are many of them. Projects, there are many of them. Not everybody is going to succeed. Not everything is good for you. But it's about experience. If you could get everything in one go, perfect. But learn from the mistakes. It's like pivoting. You just can't get everything right in the first place.
Thank you. And Manish?
So I will, apart from what Tzahi and you mentioned, I think I will take a slightly macro level view and say that, the first and foremost is, which is the most difficult one, is getting your timing right. So study your environment, look at which is the gap area, which is really come, in coming 6-8 months time. So study your environment, get the timing right is the first one. The second one would be, persistence. So once you have identified that you're sure about the gap and the timing, then you need to keep at it, and like Tzahi was mentioning, raise money, borrow money, do whatever, but persistence is going to be the, I think, second one after timing. And, so these would be top two for me. And obviously third one is, which is luck. Have loads of luck.
Have
loads of luck.
Yeah. Good. Perfect. So look, I think I would add one, which is like maybe benchmark yourself with others, see if other companies have done something similar. Don't reinvent the wheel. See whether this business has been taking off somewhere else, and how much revenues it can bring at the end, and so on, how the other companies, for example, grew. I mean, that's good to look also around. A lot of in startup or entrepreneurs thinks that they are the only one on earth who are doing this, because they don't open their eyes enough to look at the rest of the market and what exists. So that definitely should help. And I think the first most important criteria is people. If you have a great idea, great PowerPoints, great way of showing the business, but you don't have the right people to run them, that is not going to work.
Exactly.
Super. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I think we had a good and very well illustrated presentation of what every one of you is doing, what you are looking for, recommendations to startups as well. Personally, I learned a lot, and I would keep a lot of things in mind as well to stay connected. Dimitri, before closing, would you like to say a few words again about the DAO.digital and the next steps, particularly the live event in May?
Yeah, okay, sure. Thank you very much for joining this conversation. So your experience is very valuable for both us and visitors who will join our event. So what are our next plans? So after this session, we will edit these videos and provide separate videos for each of you. So a short introduction and your Q&A session and your content part. So I will create separate pages on DAO.digital for you as expert, where I upload all your links. And when the event will start, probably the next week, we'll start promoting your videos and put your interviews in front of all attendees of the events. Probably at the end of this week, we'll understand what experts are joining our event who will speak, and we will understand with Maher about panel discussions, what we will create at event, and we'll for sure invite you. And this would probably be the live sessions where attendees would look at your interviews that you have already provided and ask live questions for you, and that would be the new format for connecting with experts like we're doing this, and with live attendees for the event. So probably this is the first format that we have testing right now according to DAO.digital. The main goal is to launch decentralized autonomous organization that would handle all these processes for connecting each other, for creating content, for educating community, and etc. And for sure, all experts who will join our event will get the will be the part of this decentralized autonomous organization. So we're right now are thinking about the model of this, and we will share the results of what we will do. I'm really open for all the connections, all ideas, and really passionate about the project DAO.digital, and would like to be this kind of a platform for connecting everyone, for getting things the best way, the fastest way. Have really strong experience in digital services with different stuff like CRMs, building websites, media portals, and etc. And actually all the experience that I got would like to implement in this project and provide this platform for you for using this. So stay connected, and I'm really happy that you joined us. So hope this will be a really great thing that will be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, you are building a great community here, and I really believe that, you know, with the big number of expert speakers from across the world, the community here will be very interesting as a network, very interesting among the investors, corporates, and also very interesting interaction with the startups who would come on it. So good luck, and let's see each other again in the live event. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you very
bye.
much.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.